Carter, I can't even start off tonight's show joyous and say, Carter, the power Bryant. We got a lot we got to discuss, man. How are you?
Oh, man, it's off season, Blake. There's not a whole lot to discuss. I'm trying to figure out.
Is there really a thing, Carter? Spring football starts on Saturday.
Yeah,
is there really an off season?
I'll be honest. My biggest concern. Do you think the ACC will exist?
Yes.
So what's your prediction on give me your honest prediction on Florida State Clemson?
We didn't get to talk about this on Ruffino and Joe, but here I got the notes here because we just got done. We're gonna discuss it on Wednesday. We just didn't have time to today.
Okay.
Carter, Clemson and Florida State don't have $200 million right now to leave. I do think tomorrow there's going to be renegotiations that happen where they get paid more than some other ACC teams. Okay. So for that being said, I do think that they're going to stay for the current moment. The question will become, do they leave in 2029, 2030 when it's $100 million? But hold on. Mike Norvell, okay, God forbid Mike Norvell goes 6-6, 5-7, 2-10 again. Florida State might have to pay him $50 million to not coach. And then you got to go get another coach. The thing that I don't think people understand right now is as long as they have Clemson, North Carolina, Duke, and Florida State, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So, no, this isn't a Pac-12 scenario because, unfortunately, the Pac-12, if you remember, could not get a TV deal with anybody.
Nobody. Anybody. Well, they played their cards wrong.
They did.
Right.
They're still making $25 million in the ACC. So, for that part, I would just say that $25 million per team, I should say. The thing that I would put there is, Carter, is if you're making that level of money, even though lower than the other two, unless you're going to spend that level of money, you ain't going nowhere, big dog.
Yeah, I hope they stay put. Like, I don't want, even if they are joining the SEC or wherever, I'm perfectly fine with the ACC remaining the ACCs. But yeah, I'm trying to read all these GORs and it's not why I got into college football.
Well, here's the bottom line. Yeah. Let's wrap it up in a nutshell for the ACC.
Right.
Clemson and Florida State cannot afford $200 million for both of them. By the way, let's say for argument's sake, just for argument's sake, that both of those teams actually do pay it and do leave, and you have $400 million to play with. No team in any conference. You talk about desperation. One of these big teams will get plucked.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Vanderbilt.
You know what they would do? Let me tell you what they do. Notre Dame, when it comes to other sports, plays in the ACC.
Yes.
They'd offer $400 million to Notre Dame.
Yeah. And I could see Notre Dame even taking less than that, and you get a bigger brand than both those schools. I would be very careful if I'm Florida State and Clemson for that reason. I mean, Florida State might be terrible yet again. I mean, what if Dabo retires? I mean, does that change anything for Clemson? Probably not.
Jesus said never to retire. He ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, it's written. But good to be with you again, Blake. I'm excited. Spring football's around the corner. I wouldn't panic too much about the next defensive line coach at LSU. I don't think there's really a rush or a need. I mean, this isn't something this isn't something that happens right before signing day, if you will. But I heard you talking about Chapman staying at Florida. That it was interesting.
So let's go to Bo Davis. I guess let me ask you this question first, Carter. I mean, it was a home run hire when you made it, but it's not a home run hire in reality because it didn't amount to anything.
Nothing. Yeah.
Will the room stay together now that he's left?
There's going to be people that definitely leave, right? Especially if you sign 4 guys straight out of high school. And then obviously Mitchell transfers over. He'll probably stick around. But, Bo has a close relationship with every high school kid that he recruits. So it is a little bit of a tighter relationship than, your normal position coach with player. So, yeah, you'll lose at least one, if not more, of those freshmen that just entered. And that'll sting some, Blake. But honestly, there's really not a whole lot that I could think about other than paying a guy $1.25 million a year to coach defensive tackles. I keep going back to, is it even worth any defensive tackle coach making that much money? I'll ask you that question.
In certain scenarios, yes. Let me tell you why. You have had, and I'm putting, because people tell me that the edge isn't your defensive line. Are you an idiot? I will humor you and just say defensive line coaches. This is going to be the 8th defensive line coach that you've had in 5 years since 2020. 8. Now, there's a scenario where you don't find somebody and you go through spring football without one or during it. That means that somebody's taking over that room, which would technically make it 9. Carter, because of the overturn for me that you've had at that position, and considering what we'll talk about here tonight, some of the reasons that you've been losing these big high-profile games, I would pay whatever it takes because you got to get consistency in that room or you're going to continue to lose.
Right. No, I'm with you. I mean, look, I feel for Briankelly, who's on a 6th defensive line coach in 6 years. I didn't think I'd ever see that. But it's also one of those things, Blake, where it's...
And if you really want to be technical, Ed coach D-line.
Right. And that doesn't include the assistant defensive line coaches, Coach Hill, who's with the Vikings, I believe. There's been so many new faces. And it's not been a position of strength at LSU. I'm not saying there haven't been good DTs, obviously, like Makai Wingo, but it's not been a deep position. It's not been a position that's been developed the best. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And to your point, I think it's because there's been such a heavy rotating door there. So you do need to go find someone. But at this point, Blake, would you like Randall Joyner at Ole Miss? Would you like Al Davis?
I don't think he comes here. I don't think Randall Joyner comes here. I don't
either.
No sourcing, just opinion.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. I mean, the guy had the best defensive line in the country last year. So I really don't know. I've not heard anything other than Chapman, exactly what you said a minute ago, that, it is tough to go back to a school that didn't want you in the first place. I know that's exactly what happened with Corey Raymond, but it's tough when you're at another SEC school. And obviously Chapman has a really good defensive line in Florida going into this next year. So I understood his reasoning for staying as well. But overall,
I don't know where they go. Yeah, I mean, there have been some justifications about, well, Eric Henderson at USC makes, he's the highest paid. No, he's not. There have been a lot of talks that he's making $2 million a year. No, he's not. He's the reason you don't have it is because USC is a private institution. Here is the truth. There's a strong likelihood. I'm spitballing an opinion here. None of this is what I'm about to say is strictly opinion. You're about to spend close from 15 to 18 to probably $20 million on a roster with TV revenue share and NIL. Okay? You're going to spare any expense at the worst thing that you've done, and that being the defensive line? You're going to spare expense now. I don't think that there's any amount of money, considering how bad of a rotating door that you've been there, that I would not get. Gerald Chapman didn't come here because of money. Gerald Chapman didn't come here because he was pissed off at you, and he took it to you a year ago. He 100% with Caleb Banks, who, by the way, hot take, is going to be probably the best interior defensive lineman if he continues to play the way he's playing in the SEC. Yes, I said it. Listen, man, Carter, I'm sorry. For this position group, I am fed up. I'm at my wit's end because you're not going to win a damn thing. Nowhere close to relevance to where you want to be until that room gets better. Nowhere. Think about this. I said it last week, but I'll get your opinion. LSU defensively, since Briankelly has been here, and every SEC loss is giving up 257.88 yards per game on the ground. I did the math myself. Only one of them were below 200. Only one.
We've not had good rush defenses. No matter who the DC has been, it's a fact.
Since Durante Jones, but that's a whole different topic for a different day. They held a national championship going team to 6 yards rushing. That's a big deal. Like, let's not act like it's not. But Carter, you have been horrendous in your front seven, specifically your front four and run defense. So yes, there is no rock that I'm not overturning, because you got to have consistency here. So even the Al Davis thing, the defensive line coach at Mizzou, for me, it's as risky a hire as you can make, because what if, let's say he comes in here and does a great job this year? Great. That's awesome. Tulane opens up and Blake Baker goes. Where's Al Davis going to be? Briankelly's got to.
But wouldn't that be the case basically for any defensive line coach you would hire?
No, because if you go and get Eric Henderson and you put a massive buyout on it, NFL and it being college, no, it prolongs teams from plucking. Can we get 2 years at a defensive line coach?
Yeah, and that's what LSU thought that they had with Bo Davis, right?
Right.
He makes let's be honest, Texas to LSU, those are similar programs, and they paid up for him. I thought they would have him for the duration, the Briankelly tenure. So, Blake, the only thing I would say is I just think whoever you hire, it's always just going to be volatile at pretty much every position group. And I do think it's just been some bad luck when it comes to LSU and some of their defensive line coach hires. I mean, what would you have taken the Saints job if you're Bo Davis?
If being in his position, yes.
Yes.
Considering that he only has to coach in the NFL for 2 years to get a full NFL pension, yes.
Yes. And to get a
hold on. I don't blame the Saints. I don't blame Kellen Moore. I came out here and said, listen, they identified the guy that they wanted and they got him. Why would I be mad about that?
Right. So I'm interested to see where they go. But obviously there's bigger issues, I think, with LSU than just that, right?
You think there's bigger issues than the defensive line?
They're finding a defensive line.
What are they?
It's figuring out how your secondary is going to line up. I still think that's just the biggest thing defensively, because no matter who the new defensive tackles coach will be, I feel decent that Dominic McKinley, Ahmad Bro, Jacobian Guillory, Sadir Mitchell, and those guys, I think they'll be fine. I don't know of a safety option at this point for LSU that I know a gazillion % is going to be one of your two starting safeties going into next year. So you still have that hurdle to clear. And I think, honestly, it's a bigger hurdle than figuring out who your defensive line coach is going to be.
Games won up front.
I'm not disagreeing with you. But I will say at least LSU's defensive line play last year was good. I cannot say that about the safety play at all, really.
Was it good outside of Braden Swinson? Because I don't think it was.
What, LSU's defensive line play?
Uh-huh.
I mean, Savion Jones had some good games, but overall, I felt that the defensive
was it LSU quality?
Well, don't take this the wrong way. In recent years, yes.
Okay.
I'm not going to say it was. I'm not going to say it was Glenn Dorsey, but yes, LSU's defensive tackle room. It's not as bad as it was last year. I feel better about it going into next year than I did last year, which was the talking point pretty much every week with that team.
Carter, we're moving 2 defensive ends to defensive tackles, and they're starting and rotating because we don't have guys that are good enough to play that position right now.
And who are those ends?
It was Parashand and it was Ahmad Bro.
Yes, last year, but not now. Not now, but
I am not confident Sadir Mitchell stays. That's number one. I'm not confident in that, and I'm not confident that you can develop a 5-star level kid into where you need to be to make a playoff. You have not. Why would I go through an 8-year or a 5-year span with 8 different coaches to think that anything will change?
Oh, but I will say I'm still very concerned about it. I'm just like I can't quit thinking about the LSU secondary, even with all the transfers that are coming in.
You're right. You're right. I can't say that the safety room is not a big deal because it's a massive deal. Look, man.
It's all a problem. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess right now. The LSU defense during the spring, it's going to be interesting to say the least.
That's why I keep saying it's the biggest spring that we've ever had.
Yeah, and I think as far as spring is concerned, I'm just interested to see where everyone's going to just be lined up. Because obviously if Perk is going to be running with the ones at the Star in the fall, if he's going to be ready by then, are you going to be working to Marcus Cooley as, one of your traditional safeties instead of potentially a nickel star kind of role? I mean, all of that's going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks. So I'm fascinated, but I'm also going to remain calm about it as well because there's just so much that can change from now until then.
How does how does Deshaun Spears look in year 2? Like that, I think that I haven't mentioned Deshaun Spears at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say about him because is that what we saw last year's floor? And what happens when he doesn't rotate in? They clearly thought that he wasn't good enough to play last year as a freshman.
Yeah.
Which Jordan Gilbert, God bless him. He had rotator cuff surgery again this offseason.
Yes.
He couldn't raise his arms above his head, and we were saying that he was the best option that we had when he was hurt. So I'm with you. Look, man, Blake Baker got a lot of questions he got to answer. Like I've said before, I feel like I know at least somewhat of the rotation you get at receiver.
Absolutely.
I don't know what your 5 offensive linemen are going to be, even though Carius Kern, did you see the Snapchat of Carius Kern?
No, I didn't.
Carius Kern posted on Snapchat that he benched 225 39 times.
Oh, dang. Where would that have put him in the NFL Combine?
He would have beat it. He would have won it. By the way, he's 18.
I thought I saw someone do like something ridiculous.
Oh, maybe. Well, I saw the clip, but that was from a guy in 2008.
Oh, okay. So that was an old clip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't watch the combine. Maybe I'm wrong. But if somebody can bean count me, it would be close to winning the whole thing. But here's the thing, though. He's 18.
No, I'm with you. I'm a huge, like I said last time, I'm a huge Carius Kern believer.
So I know the guys that you'll have the offensive line. I know the guys you'll have a quarterback, tight end, and running back. Question is that I don't know if you're ready defensively. I don't. I think that there's a chance, secondary-wise, corner-wise, I think you're going to lock them down early. Here's how I take. I think these corners are going to lock them. I think Mansour, Delane, and the boys are going to lock them down early. But, man, I think they're going to get the ball run all over them. And against a team in their own team that can't run the football.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Clemson is just a really tough match. I mean, this is going to be the best offense Dabo's had since 2019. So it's going to be a problem, Blake, projecting this team and how they'll match up with Clemson, because right now Clemson at home offensively, they look pretty good with Cade Klubnik going into next year. So I'm really, really excited to see who's going to come forth with this LSU defensive line.
How are we a year to date in the same spot?
What do you mean?
Don't know who's going to replace, or don't know what you're going to do, who's going to be the guide receiver. You don't really know how the interior offensive line is going to look. You have some running back shakeup. Josh Williams this time isn't there to save you. You don't necessarily completely know what you're going to look at linebacker. Harold Perkins is back. What does he look like in a new role? You have 4 guys from your DB room that came from the portal, so you've never seen him play in the SEC. Carter, I literally feel like I've had the same exact discussion back-to-back years. Yeah. I literally feel like my life, for what it's worth, I feel like it's on rewind.
No, I'm with you, Blake. And look, I keep going back to this. Briankelly's got to do a better job. I mean, it's just that simple. As far as getting this team ready to go, it's one of those things, Blake, where one kind of undertold story is Joe Sloan's going to be back. He's got to do a better job. I mean, that's probably, to me, the biggest question mark of this entire team. And, Wilson Alexander tweeted out, the quote about Juwan Johnson, dual threat quarterback. What's going to happen with that? And it's another story. Do you put in more snaps with a faster quarterback? Do you include that to maybe get the run game going? I don't know. But honestly, Blake, the good thing is with all these question marks that we have with LSU, there's all kind of question marks with all these other SEC teams. And I tune in to some of the other team-specific shows like our own, and they're kind of doing the same thing, right? With this portal era, there's all this uncertainty with all these new guys coming in. So while LSU has a lot of question marks, and you and I have both kind of tempered down some of these national media expectations of LSU being a playoff lock that a lot of the national media said, there's a lot of questions with there's a lot of questions with quite a few teams. Let's take South Carolina, for instance, right? That's a team that a lot of people are going to be high on going into next year. Lenore Sellers, getting all those crazy comparisons, potential first-round pick next year. And then obviously their pass rushers, Stewart and those guys. But they lost Dow Loggins, the talisman of that offense. They lost Raheem Rocket Sanders. They're by far their best running back, who was phenomenal for them last year. So while we in the chat and whoever talks about all these different holes, guess what? There's plenty of other SEC teams that are going through this as well.
Here's the bottom line, though. I know Lenore Sellers can run all over your ass.
Yeah, but South Carolina fans would say, hey, we had arguably the best safety at our school since DJ Swearinger, and
it's indebatable. He's the best safety in the country. Eamon Warrior was the best safety in the country. If you listen to the show, that you would have heard.
No, I'm with you. He's great. And you had him last year, and Garrett Nussmeier still threw all over you. Now, he did have a good interception versus him late in the game. But that's what South Carolina fans are saying to themselves right now about LSU. While we couldn't stop their run, they couldn't stop Garrett Nussmeier, and the Scherzo couldn't stop Aaron Anderson. And that was with them.
We would not have said that if that pick six didn't get a flag on it.
No, I would have said it because Garrett Nussmeier still lit him up. That didn't change the fact that he threw that bad interception, but he still picked him apart. And that was with them getting good pass rush.
You think a guy with 3 turnovers in a game picked somebody apart?
Yeah, he threw for a gazillion yards in that game.
Does throwing for yards mean anything when you can't score from the 1 yard line? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to get on.
No, but
here's the thing. I think the narrative is on Nuss, though. He can throw for 5,000 yards. If he's turning the ball over that much, it doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, but Blake,
having
he
three
had by
turnovers
far the most dropbacks, most pass attempts, most third and longs than any other quarterback in the SEC.
And that justifies turnovers.
I'm not saying it does, but
no, it doesn't.
It's just what he has to do on a snap-to-snap basis is just so much harder than, to me, most of the quarterbacks, if not all the quarterbacks in the SEC, because he had a first-year P4 play caller, and he had no running game to work with. And I understand you're more critical of Garrett Nussmeier. I defend Garrett.
I'm critical of the turnovers. I'm not critical of Garrett, but I just don't think picking him apart.
Though I will be the first to tell you, the A&M game was the worst turnovers I've ever seen from an LSU quarterback, probably since Jared Lee. Right? It was terrible. Garrett Nussmeier deserves most of the blame that went on in that game, along with obviously not being able to stop Marcel Reed. But in that South Carolina game, that game was just hostile. Just a hole that he had to dig us out of. Some of the most ridiculous throws, some of the most ridiculous throws you will ever see an LSU quarterback make.
That also doesn't stop Lenore Sellers going out at halftime. It doesn't stop that there was a bad pick six flag. It doesn't stop that he ran for 100 net yards on you, which was my original point, that I know that he can run all over you. And he can and he will if you allow him to. Carter, you have, again, this isn't a one-year sample size that I mentioned, the 255 or 257.88 rush yards you're giving up on the ground.
Yeah,
they can get worried about it, but here's the truth. I don't care what they think that they know. I know my team, and here's the truth about our team. You have not shown that you can do shit against better opponents when it comes to defending the run.
I'm with you, and
that ain't got shit to do with Garrett. I mean, like they.
Oh no. That's my overall point. Is Garrett got this team along with some others. I'm not saying he was not the only good player on this entire team, but as much as we want to point to the interceptions and turnovers that happened in that South Carolina game, the throws that he made to get us even in the realm of winning that game were insane. They're absolutely absurd throws to Aaron Anderson.
This is what happens, though, that when we get in these discussions, I get blasted. So I don't come out here.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here
Here's the truth.
Did Garrett Nussmeier win the game versus South Carolina? Yes or
no?
Yes,
he did. No, yes, Lenore Sellers going out at halftime won you the game.
Yes.
They did not get past the 50-yard line once in the second half.
I'm with you. And I've talked about Briankelly having a lot of quarterback injury luck during the course of his career. Okay. LSU does not win that game if that doesn't happen. Okay.
Exactly. They do not win it.
But despite heavy pressure, Garrett still threw some of the most ridiculous throws, in particular to Aaron Anderson in that game. Did he turn the football over? Yes. But the fact that he was in so many third and Ponchatoula's, third and New Orleans, third and Rustins, third and longs, he kept making play after play after play. And, that's what he did with a first-year play caller and a running back that emerged, obviously Caden Durham in that game. So I understand he threw that pick at the end. Was he very lucky that there was a turn?
How we can well, here's two things. Number one, how I can be so hated by a fan base about talking about the reality of a situation is crazy to me. We picked apart Hoomst. Like, all I'm saying is that he did not have a great game that game. And I say you can't.
He made bad mistakes that game.
Carter,
but to say that
here is a truth.
Have a great
Anybody that has 3 turnovers in a game whether you want to fight semantics over an adjective or not, is not great. Sorry, it is not. I don't care who you are. I don't care what we know about football. Anybody turns the ball over 3 times in a game, it is not great. Can we agree with that? It's not great.
It just depends on your
You can have great hold on. You can have great moments, like the throws that you're talking about. Those are great moments. Okay. You can't say it's a great game when you have that. We can fight over the adjective, but it's the truth. So again, to the best point of where what you're trying to say is that Garrett can get us out of those situations. Nobody is saving us from 257.88. Now, I'm getting labeled negative in the chat right now, which is okay.
Yeah.
You can't argue with you getting your asses whooped along the defensive line. And I promise you this, don't fix it and watch what happens. I've been doing this a long time. I've been around football a long time. Garrett's help or not does not stop you giving up 2 75-yard runs with 4 of the 5 offensive linemen coming back in South Carolina. It doesn't.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I'm with you with the Sellers taking another step, but we'll see. Obviously, with Garrett, there's a lot that needs to get worked on, but with the defensive line, I'm with you as well. You got to be able to stop the dual threat quarterbacks. That's going to be the big question. Reed's back, obviously. I mean, is Marcel Reed even going to be the quarterback at A&M next year?
I don't know. They brought in that Zeno kid. I think it will be Marcel Reed. But again, here's where I'm going to be right. Let me tell you where I'm going to be right. I will take the heat right now on defensive line. Blake's so negative, Portal King, whatever. They did a great job in the portal. Why did they have to do that great of a job in the portal? Why? What if I'm wrong and they missed? What if Sadir Mitchell doesn't want to be here? What if Don McKinley doesn't want to be here? What if you're going to have injury there? There are so many questions. There are so many questions that, look, this isn't even a Briankelly or Garrett Nussmeier anything thing. This is that even a Jane Daniels could not be great enough, even though he was great, to get you above 9-3. And he was the best player that we had probably seen since Burrow, if it's just being all told.
I don't think that's debatable.
I'm talking about college football.
I'm with you.
Right.
With you.
I mean, even he could not be great enough. And I can get kicked in the chat all that they want to. But there are massive holes and weaknesses, not just offensively and defensively. It's all over the place that you got to get questions to. You go right on ahead and not listen. The guy at Tennessee, Todd Bates. I'd go give Todd Bates $1.25 million right now and beg him to come. You have to make it. You have to make a choice here.
So you want to go big game hunting for another?
Oh, you know what I said on Thursday? Let me get your thought on this. I'll get you out of here on this. I'm offering Larry Johnson $2 million a year with a $5 million buyout. I'm going to make him the highest paid defensive line coach in the country. I'm going to make him I'm going to make him also an assistant to the head coach on the defensive side of things. Make Frank offense, Larry Johnson defense. I'm going to give him $2 million because here's the truth. I just saw a coordinator with the number 1 overall defense in the country, and Todd Bowles, literally just get paid $3.5 million. I am giving him that because then you get sustained. You know what else I'm doing? I'm giving him $15 million over the next 2 years to go get a defensive line and fix it.
Yeah, but okay. I'm pro doing the Larry Johnson thing, but what do you think about, part of the reason why one of my Ohio State guys told me this. Part of the reason why Knowles left is because of Larry.
It is
with the scheme. So if you do that and you give him that much money, I mean, he's going to want a say-so on how the defense is going to be run. Obviously,
can I just be real with you? It just won a team a national title.
Yeah, but
Carter, he's going to have 4 defensive linemen that will be drafted in the first 100 picks. First 150 picks. He's going to have 4 defensive linemen drafted again. By the way, 3 years ago, he had 3.
I'm not denying. Yeah, I'm not denying that. And
2 years ago, he had 2. I mean, Carter, they are putting in minimum 2 guys in the league per year. So I got to be real. Jim knows it is what it is. They can make that excuse all they want to. But at the end of the day, who won out? And the reason he won out is because watch what's going to happen with our D-line this year. Oh, buddy, they're going to get after your ass.
I don't know anything about their D-line this year. I don't.
You're asking me what I would do now. What would you do?
Okay. I don't know at this point. I would do the opposite. Actually, I wouldn't overpay for any defensive line coach. I think that money could be used elsewhere. I think there's plenty of people that would come in and want to be a defensive tackles coach at LSU for $600,000, $700K. And those hundreds of thousands of dollars could be used to supplement whoever's coming in with the talent needed to succeed at that position. And then if you don't feel comfortable with anyone, I wouldn't totally be opposed. It's not what I would do, but I wouldn't totally be opposed to just Kevin Peoples being the defensive line coach.
Period. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can do that. Why would you be okay with it? I'll go with you for why do you think I don't think you could do that. Why would you be okay with it?
It's not what I would do, but if you don't, I wouldn't just go force someone in there just for the sake of it.
Carter, they don't have the analysts to do that right now. And listen, you would have to go hire 2, 3, 4 analysts. Brother, you'd have to hire at minimum 2. They got what? Let's see. 8 in the DT room. They have 16 players. They have a quarter of your team. He can't be all at all of them with once.
Yeah, that would be my last ditch thing, but I don't think it'd be like the be all end all. Like
Run.
Bring him back. Blake, it was great, and we will talk soon, my brother.
Thank you. I'm sorry I keep you late as always. See you, buddy.